So welcome back to the Piney Woods Homestead. I appreciate you tuning in to see what we have going on today. The other day I showed you how to work on a corner brace for a new pig lot fence install. Also showed you how to take a couple of pieces of scrap 2x4 and make you a sandwiching device to pull that with. And in the last video I showed you how to take fence wire and set it on top of a piece of wood with a T-post driven in the ground with some PVC pipe on it. Unfortunately, I didn't get hurt doing that. Actually, the second attempt at the next section of fence we're going to pull today went so much smoother. Didn't even have to get off the tractor, just used the controls and manipulated it into place. But before we get started, I want to show you a little something new that we have going on the homestead I think you might be interested in. So here's our newest project. We've got Sussex hens. Those are the brown and kind of black striped birds. And we have Delaware roosters. And the reason that we got this little breeding stock is because for years now we've been buying in all of our Ranger chickens for processing here on the farm. We buy them and we grow them out for about 9 weeks. And my thought was, let's try hatching out some chickens that we can grow that are unique and specific to Piney Woods Homestead. And looking at the history of the Sussex and the Delaware, both have been used dual purpose for meat and for egg production. And the Delaware, I believe, at one point was a commercially raised bird here in the United States. That's the white chicken, that's the roosters. We'll have to cull one, at least, maybe two. But that's going to be a ways off before we do that. May just let him run around in the yard and act naturally, as they say. So let's get on back down here to the fencing project. I just wanted to show you the birds real quick. So as I'm over here working on this new section of fence, I can hear Rosie over here. She's grunting at me. Always the supervisor on shift. And we know how those supervisors can be. But anyways, let's go over here. I want you to take a look at Rosie today. I'd like to show her. I know that some of y'all are interested in learning more about the type of hogs that we raise. Rosie! Rosie! Always walking away from me. It's because I don't have a treat, right? Come over here, girl, and let's show the folks what you up to today. Well, the old girl just won't come over here right now. She knows it's not feeding time. She's just going to meander out through the woods. It's her stomping grounds, and she stays pretty cool back here. There's plenty of shade. Nice light breeze today. It's about 90 degrees, and the humidity isn't horrible. It's bearable. So let's get a little bit of work done. So in case you're interested in how we've been confining our hogs for the past couple of years, we've simply done it with 3 strands of electric with a 6-joule fencer. And instead of purchasing the rather expensive electrified netting like you see so many places, we opted to spend $50 and bought a roll of construction fence. Now, this fence is totally just something up here so that whenever a pig touches its nose to the fence, not only do they get the shock, the jolt in the nose, but they also see that woven fence material here. It's just a really stout plastic. Gives them a visual to go along with that pain sensation that they feel temporarily. And even when the fence has been off for sometimes days on end because of bad storms, the hogs won't try to get out of it. But you know, if you left it off for too long, you know, they'd probably get pretty curious and plow on through that. But just a quick tip, something inexpensive that you can do on your pig lot if you don't have the funds to put up some permanent border fencing. So I thought I'd show you a close-up of what it takes to get your fence line stretched using this little contraption I built out of the rough cut 2x4s and the bolts. Once you've put it on to the fence, I take a logging chain and I go ahead and I hook it around near the bottom of this little contraption, because I want to pull the bottom of the fence first and get that little section tight before I move on. Not everybody does it the same way. This is just how I do it. You can do it however you're used to doing it, or if you like something else somebody else has better. But this is what I've always done, and it seems to work. So I'm going to show you, using the gator winch, how I tighten my fence, which will make it plenty tight for what I'm doing here for my application. Just give it a few pulls. And you see it's going to pull the gator too, but that's all right. All right, she's tight enough on the bottom. Now what we're going to do is come back with some fence staples and go ahead and secure that in the bottom before we move up anywhere closer to the top. Now just take you a couple of fence staples and secure down at the bottom where you've already tightened the fence. Just a couple down at the bottom, and we'll move on up to the top. Now that you've pulled from the top, or about a little over halfway up is where I hooked the chain. Now you can go ahead and drive a few more fence staples before continuing all the way to the top with the same process. And there you go. That's as tight as you're going to get it with that gator winch. So that's going to be tight enough. I mean, that's pretty tight. So go ahead and get the rest of your staples in there, and then I'm going to show you how I tie into fence and get this next little section ran. So I got my chain hooked up to my fence stretcher, wire puller, and it's hooked up to the gator. Let's see if we can pull a little bit of wire back to that connection point we're going to need to make. Let me see if I can get you a little bit of a close-up of what I'm doing down here where I'm tying this fence in. All I'm doing is taking the horizontal pieces of wire from the end of the wire that I just pulled up, and I'm wrapping it with the corresponding vertical stay. I'm wrapping it around, and I'm doing that in two sections. I'm doing it at the end of this fence that I just pulled, as well as the end of the existing fence that I just cut after we had pulled the corner. So you just take it and wrap it by hand around that stay. And you do the same thing on this side. And you just do that all the way down. There's a tool that they make you can actually wrap that wire tighter, but I have found over the years that this is sufficient. It'll work. It'll get your fence tight enough. Alright, so we got the fence pulled where we tied in. We pulled on down to this next corner that was already here. All I did was add one more 6x6 post into the ground and tied it in the same fashion that you saw me do the corners in a previous video. Now we're going to pull this wire and see if we can get it at least halfway tight. Not too shabby. Now we'll go ahead and get a couple of fence staples down here in the bottom so we can keep this fence from moving too much when I take the winch off and get a new pull. So y'all, that looks good enough for government work if you ask me. It's going to keep these pigs in. Fence is good and tight. On the next video that we bring you, we'll be showing you how we put the simple electric in. It's going to go on the inside. And before you know it, we'll have Rosie able to get into all this pasture. Now, like I've told you before, this ain't no professional fence by any means or any standard. If you want professional fence, you may want to hire it done unless you have educated yourself enough to be able to pull off the professional fence job. But what I'm here to show you is something that you can do with just a few simple tools and a little bit of willingness to get out there and get dirty. So get out there and get dirty and work on your fence. What I'll do now is I'll end up cutting it one more time, and I will tie it in on the other side of the corner in a similar fashion that I showed you up at the new corner that we were working on. So get out and build your fence, and I hope that this helps. Here in just a minute we're going to wrap this thing up because it is awful hot out here and I'm getting awful hungry. And there's some shrimp up there at the house that I am waiting to fry. So y'all, thanks for joining in to the Piney Woods Homestead. We'll put out a couple videos a week, what we have time to do, keep you up to date on the progress. Like I told you before, we've been doing this for several years. We grow our own food as much as we possibly can. We like knowing where it comes from, and if you're watching this, you probably do too. So y'all have a good day. I'll see you soon.